Okay, today is Blue Monday, and we are going to continue with our discussion about we and I, and you and I together being us. But before we get to that, we're going to talk about how it is that we have been deceived about the nature of our particular everyday reality. And we have been deceived to believe that this is a solid physical world, and it certainly looks that way and it feels that way. Why do we say we're deceived? Because it is not quite what we think it is. It is a projection. We are witnessing a projection. Is it a holographic projection? It might as well be. In other words, we're trying to get across the idea that this is a projected world, the world that we experience day to day when we are awake. It is projected from another plane of existence, that is the astral plane. So things that go on in the astral plane later become projected into our, what we call, physical reality. Now, who's an expert at getting things done in the astral realms? Is it the dead? Is it you when you're sleeping and dreaming? Are there other beings that live in the astral realm? Where is the astral realm in relationship to this projected physical reality? We are going to begin by reminding you that you can't remember even being an infant. And you certainly don't remember what you were up to before you became an infant on this physical plane. Let that sink in for a minute. You can't remember. Are you hypnotized? Are you hypnotized and someone hypnotized you and said you won't remember? And then you became associated with an infant's body, which grew into an adult's body. And you're always puzzled. Why is it that I can't remember what I was up to before I was an infant, or even being an infant? Because people keep talking about reincarnation as if it's real. Where did this idea come from? I can't remember, but they say, lo and behold, you had previous lives. So I think it is true. I think we are hypnotized, most of us, and memories come and go, and it doesn't seem to have any thing to do with our will to remember this or that. They just kind of seep in here and there, and they're here one moment and gone the next, and then you remember something else, and then you might have a long period where you're not doing any memory remembering, and you're living here. So who is running the show? It is not me. I am a projected person into this physical reality. Do we actually live in a... No, we live here in this projected physical reality. So rather than trying to figure out how one thing becomes another, how do we make this reality work for us? Do we have to go into a trance, or do we have to have a dream in order to make things happen in the astral that will filter down into this reality? It's not my place to tell you. Whose place is it to tell you? I don't know. What's the point of talking? It's because I'm trying to give you a puzzle. A puzzle. This is the framework of the puzzle. This world that we live in is a projected reality. and it stems from the astral plane. And astral plane is basically where people's spirits go when they die in the physical body. It's also a place that you go when you dream. What's the point of having an astral and a physical plane? I don't know. This is something for you to quest on, to figure out why. And then when you figure out why, the other questions are, well, I want things to happen in my reality here. So does it mean I've got to get more involved with the astral world to figure out what's going on there and how I can figure out all the things that are going on there, how much of it seeps into our physical reality? Now, this is a different way of looking at reality, a different reality box. Last week I was talking about the so-called laws of vibration and laws of attraction. But I'm giving up on that reality box because there's more than one way to look at influencing our physical reality. And law of attraction is just one idea that you can play with until you're sick of it and you want something new. So if you're going to go to something new, let's go with the idea, dream is destiny. If you can dream it, it was going to happen. How can you dream it? Well, someone wants to say you can use your imagination, image it in. Imagination. It's basically imaging you by visualizing something and then have it appear in your physical reality. So some people are very good at closing their eyes and visualizing things. Are they actually visualizing it, or is it given to them as an image to see? Close your eyes. Visualize an image of the pyramids in Egypt. Do you get a triangular shape? Yes, I do. The thing is, before I said the pyramids in Egypt, I didn't have something to imagine in, to image in. I waited for the idea to drop into my conscious mind. And the idea was, at first I was thinking of, it was a large statue, maybe something from ancient times, maybe somewhere in the Mediterranean, a very large statue, one of the 7 wonders of the world. But I didn't get the name of it, and quickly they moved on. Why do I say? Well, that's the way that the words come to me. So that's the way it came. And instead of this tall statue from the Mediterranean area, we got the pyramids. And then I closed my eyes, and lo and behold, I saw some triangular shapes. It's not the same thing as seeing with your eyes. It's not a sharp, like the edge of my shirt here. It's not sharp and it's not colorized. But it is in a form that I can understand to be the pyramids. So I was saying, well, what other ways can you use dream as destiny? Some people use what they call treasure maps. So maybe you'll go through a big stack of old magazines looking at the pictures, and out of the pictures, look for things that you really like. Maybe there is a vacation somewhere in some beautiful place. So what you do is you cut out the picture of that vacation area and you tape it to a piece of Bristol board, and you continue down with various things that you would like to experience. And that is your treasure map, and then you hang it on a wall, maybe in your bedroom, where you glance at it from time to time, to remind yourself, these are some things that I would like to experience. It's like a bucket list. And some people say that if they have these treasure map boards, that these things do come to pass for them. So you dreamed about going to this place, and lo and behold, sometime later on, you'll find that you are there. Does it mean you went on Expedia and you booked a tour, or what? It's more mystical than that. I mean, that would be one way you could do your bucket list, is just have a bunch of things that you wanted to do on your bucket list. But this is a more mystical kind of way. So, there was an author I read many years ago who was doing treasure mapping. And it was like the universe was working to get him. He was put up on his treasure map a big mansion. And later in life, he ended up finding that mansion. I mean, it was basically, if you went into a real estate catalog and you were looking at nice houses, and they weren't giving you the addresses in the cities where these things were. So he cut out something that he liked, and he didn't know. I mean, a picture had been taken of it, but it didn't say where this place was. So it's way more mystical than, cutting out a picture of a house that's got a street address and a city on it. This one didn't have that. It was just a picture. And lo and behold, later on in life, somehow it came to his attention again. And lo and behold, and the city and the street were available, and there it was. I don't know if he was driving down a street and there was a real estate sign out in front of this exact thing that he had seen from a magazine many years before, but that's kind of the way I remember the story. So it is definitely a consciousness thing, because everything is known to consciousness. So when he sees the picture of this house, the conscious mind doesn't know what the street address is and where it was. But the totality of consciousness knows that exact place. And it is mischievous. It will not really sidetrack you. It'll trick you. It will trick you into going to where that house is by giving you a series of connections, other people talking, everything leading you to, for example, ending up on a trip to, let's say, Los Angeles, California. And, maybe because you were going to see Disney World or something. But lo and behold, as you decide, I'm hungry, I want to go and find a coffee shop because I need a muffin and a coffee and an orange juice. So you maybe, I don't know how you get there. Maybe you get in a cab and you say, take me to a place like this. And the cab drives, and it takes a kind of a, maybe there's a sign, and it's road closed. So you get off the main road and you've got to go around because it's road closed. And lo and behold, you drive down a side street, and there's the house that you saw in the magazine many years ago. So the universe kind of tricks you into going to Disneyland in order to get to Los Angeles, where this house is. And in this particular book, this particular person ended up buying the house and living in the house of his dreams, because the universe knew where it was and tricked him into going there. Why didn't the universe just, put it in his head? It's 123 California Drive, Los Angeles. It's just not the way it works. It works in a different way. So something I'm working on is Pergamon, which it has been moved from what was known as Mesopotamia, which is modern day, let's say, Iraq. And it was moved to Berlin, Germany, Pergamon. And inside the Pergamon Museum, there is, someone says souvenirs. Yeah, well, basically they moved part of Babylon, the city of Babylon, to this museum. And there's Ishtar's Gate there. And I really had no intention of going to the museums in Berlin. My friend was really into things like RuPaul's Drag Race and Fashion Week in different cities around the world. And my friend said, let's go to Fashion Week Berlin. And I don't know exactly how it all came about, how I decided, sure, let's go. But I guess I signed up to go and fly to Berlin, and I didn't know anything about Pergamon Museum or Ishtar's Gate or this having been moved from ancient Mesopotamia. I didn't know anything about Berlin having this connection to Ishtar or Babylon. But once I was in Berlin, and my friend had found the place we were going to stay in. It was a little tiny apartment in Berlin, and it happened to be in the museum area. And once I saw all the beautiful architecture of these beautiful buildings, I wanted to go in and take a look around, and I brought my cameras, and I was going to take lots of pictures. And I wandered around, and I absolutely adored the museums of Berlin. I wanted to see them all, and I had a very short amount of time, so I spent all day. And my friend went to Berlin Fashion Week and took some pictures, and I went off to the museums. And lo and behold, this brought me to all this history that I had no idea was in Berlin. No idea whatsoever. So, what's the connection? Well, I just seem to have little flights of fancy in my head about things I'm interested in. And one of the things I've been interested in for a number of years now is a place called the Magic Castle in Hollywood, just outside or neighboring Los Angeles. I'm not sure if Hollywood is part of Los Angeles. I can't understand if these are just subdivision names or these are actual cities. It might be a mishmash. Anyway, Magic Castle is in Hollywood, and I haven't been there. I haven't even been to Hollywood, although I've been to other parts of Los Angeles. And I was looking at this one website, and it was talking about how they have some of these reproductions of Babylon and Ishtar-related gates in Hollywood, and you can draw a line between the Magic Castle in Hollywood and this Ishtar's Gate, and it is a perfect line. It lines up with some lines that they have. I don't know if they've imagined them or they've seen them, but they say they line up with Pergamon in Berlin, which lines up when it was built and set up to line up with the original in Mesopotamia or modern-day Iraq. Why are they spending all this money to reproduce ancient Mesopotamia? Another thing on this website that came to my attention is they said Jerusalem is not the original way that Jerusalem was named. It was actually Ur-Salem, U-R, Salem. And Ur was another city in ancient Mesopotamia, modern-day Iraq. So Jerusalem was a western version of Ur, which was on the east side of that kind of Arabian Peninsula, Middle Eastern area. And lo and behold, in Hollywood, they've duplicated it. Salem gets used a number of times in different places. There's Winston-Salem in the United States on the East Coast. Stephen King's famous novel was called Salem's Lot, which was about a vampire, and we've heard of the Salem witch trials, which is some hundreds of years ago. They rounded up people and accused them of witchcraft, and I'm not sure if they burned them at a stake or not. I'll have to look it up. But what's the whole point of this is the connections. The connections. I was interested in the Magic Castle because I was kind of interested in stage magic. And lo and behold, it's got this connection to Ishtar, and I've been to this Pergamon museum in Berlin, and it's all a bunch of unrelated facts until later when you keep gathering facts and facts and facts, and it's like a jigsaw puzzle, and it's all connected, someone says in your brain, but let's say in mind or in consciousness. And it's as if there were something for me to experience, but it didn't say, well, you're going to fly to Berlin and you're going to fly to Hollywood. It doesn't come about that way. It comes about sideways over many years. And looking back, you go, it's almost like someone wanted me to go to Berlin, not for Berlin Fashion Week, but wanted me to go to the Pergamon Museum. And someone wanted me to hit this website where I saw another piece about the Magic Castle in Hollywood. It seems like there is an agenda for my life that I'm not aware of. It's like magic, stage magic, where they use misdirection. In other words, look over there, and they point over there, and you're looking over there. Meanwhile, something else is going on over here, but your attention is over there, so you don't see it. And that's the way it seems like, for me, my life goes. My attention is drawn over there, Berlin Fashion Week, but really what they want me to do is go to Pergamon Museum. But I don't know about this consciously. It's all hidden from me. Some people might say it's unconscious, but unconscious to me seems like it's the wrong word. Unconscious to me is like someone hits you over the head with a wooden plank and knocks you out. You're unconscious. But if something is hidden, it's not hidden unconscious. I mean, in other words, it's like dead. It's like, when you get hit over the head with a wooden plank, you're knocked out and you're not aware. There's no awareness there. So it's hidden from your awareness. But I wouldn't say it's the same thing as being you're dead and, this is like unconscious to you. It's hidden. It's hidden consciousness. And it's like there's a grand game. Another thing I suspect that is going on, and I don't have all the pieces to put it fully together, but I've got enough of an inkling that this goes on, is Masonry, which is... they have Masonic temples all over the place, and some people think the Masons are horrible, evil things, and other people think the Masons are history buffs, history keepers of different hidden mysteries of the world. And, you can go either way. There's the idea that there's enormous Masonic plots to rule the world, and then they link it to Lucifer and Satan. Or you could go the other way, and the Masons talk about they're connected to I don't know how you say it, the two pillars of Solomon's temple in Jerusalem. Boaz and I'm going to try to guess how to pronounce it. Joachim. It's Joachim. I don't know how you pronounce it properly. No one's ever said it to me. But those are the two pillars of Solomon's temple. And then you can learn about Hiram Abif and the architects and murder mysteries. And it's all connected to the Masons. But I was going to say, I have an inkling that perhaps in the astral plane, the Masons have mapped out the way that our cities, for example, are going to be designed. And they have allocated you and me as to where we're going to live in these Masonic cities that are designed in the astral and get built here in the physical based upon these. Why do I think it happens in the astral? I might not be right. It might just be in consciousness in general, but I don't have a really good reason for that. It could be wrong. I'm just going on kind of trying to draw lines. It's because of, if you look into Masonic numbers, they're very much into certain numbers, like 33, that is like an advanced Mason is the 33rd degree Mason. So 33 seem to be a good number. Numbers based on 11s, multiples of 11s. And, people take these and they say, well, maybe we're not Masons, but we're going to use these kind of numbers. And, like Dallas, Texas, where John F. Kennedy was assassinated, has, is it latitude 33? You have to look it up. Distances between major cities in North America quite often are very close to 777 miles. So between Havana, Cuba, and I think it's definitely New Orleans is about 777 miles. And I think Savannah, Georgia and Havana, 777. How did that happen? These are supposed to be old cities, but you're going to have to get out an old-fashioned map and get a compass. The old-fashioned compasses that you used, maybe you never used them, but one has got a pointy end and one you put a pencil in, and then you can draw circles or arcs. And set it to 777 miles and just start putting that compass between cities to see which cities are 777 miles apart. And there's quite a lot of them. So it seems like, this is not really taught in high school, but by serendipity, I started measuring one day on a map between different places, and I started seeing the 777. And lo and behold, a number of cities are that distance across. And why do I think it was the Masons? I don't know. Maybe it wasn't. But, for example, in the United States, there's the Mason-Dixon line. And these were supposed to be gentlemen who were surveyors. But Mason and the Masons is an exact duplicate match. Springfield, Missouri is very close to the Mason-Dixon line. And if you go looking, remember that Springfield is one of the names of the Simpsons. I don't think it's Springfield, Missouri. I think it's a different Springfield. But there's a number of Springfields in the United States. So, if you start looking at that Mason-Dixon line, which traditionally separated the North from the South, Well, what you could do is you could get your compass out, set it at 777 miles, put one end on New Orleans, and see where you end up from New Orleans. And use other major places. Washington, D.C. is known to be designed by the Masons. It was actually a Frenchman. But there's all kinds of Masonic symbology in Washington, D.C. Does it make it an evil place or an interesting place? This is the problem I have when I'm looking at some interesting people. They put together interesting bits of information, but quite often they use their fundamentalist Christianity, which is, Jesus versus Satan or Jesus versus Lucifer. And they put it in terms of good and evil. And I think they're using this. It's like taking everything, and everything has to get put into two bins, good or evil. And it kind of makes you paranoid. Because it's like you taking an old piece of acetate, clear acetate. It's basically clear plastic. And what's written on the top of this plastic acetate is that. Good versus evil. And you're putting this plastic acetate and you're looking through it. Everything you're looking through it, and it polarizes everything in your world into good and evil and a conspiracy of good versus a conspiracy of evil. Is it true? To a fundamentalist Christian who only has this idea and only has this one piece of acetate, it's truth to that person. And that whole person's life is going to be clouded by this piece of acetate, good versus evil, Jesus versus the devil. And the person's going to miss out a lot because the world is more like a kaleidoscope. It's not good and evil. It's a lot of different ways of looking at the information to get interesting stories. And the story of good versus evil is, it gets quite stale. It gets quite stale, and it turns you into a paranoid schizophrenic. So I don't agree with fundamentalist Christians at looking at these things in the lens of good and evil, because it's all in consciousness. And what you're saying is part of consciousness is evil and part of consciousness is good. I have to say, consciousness is life. If you're completely deleted from consciousness, you're dead. So these ideas, even ideas like Satan and Lucifer, are in living consciousness. So they are part of life. What if Lucifer has a plan to... I don't know, Hollywood makes a lot of these scary movies based upon this idea that, there's horrible evil. Why do they make these movies? Because they sell. Some people are big fans of these kind of scary movies. The old story was, if you wanted to go on a first date, if you went to a scary movie, by being scared, you'll end up cuddling with the person that you're on a date with. And that's why people like going to scary movies, because they really have a secret desire to cuddle and they need an excuse. That is your jigsaw puzzle, treasure mapping, and hidden things in consciousness that are bringing you here and there So you can go, wow, isn't that cool? I'm Harry Weaver.